Aloha and good afternoon. Today is Sunday, April 16th here in beautiful Hawaii. Weather is gorgeous and we're doing our breaking news update. With me today is Dr. Peter Tarlow in College Station, Texas. How's the weather in College Station, Peter?
The weather could not be better. The day was an absolutely beautiful day. It's now evening here in Texas. We've had wonderful weather, 70 degrees or about 21 degrees Celsius if you're on the Celsius scale, blue skies, a gentle wind, and almost no humidity. And it seems almost too good, the weather, to be true because we're on the verge of entering the May months, which is a period usually lots of heat and humidity. And this is like a gift from God. So everybody was out today walking, enjoying the sunshine. It it was like Hawaii came to Texas, but without a beach. So it was really wonderful today.
Wonderful.
Um, and saying that, on the other hand, there were some problems in the world today. Unfortunately, we still see issues in many countries around the world. There's a war going on in Sudan, which just kind of popped out of no place. Now, there's not a lot of not tourists in Sudan, but that can easily spread to other countries. Of course, France is having a very difficult time, and many of its tourism places are closed, or at least they're struggling because of all the protests going on. There are also protests against the Netanyahu government in Israel. There's issues in Germany. There's issues in England. So those are all unfortunately part of breaking news. And we saw some really terrible crime going on in Mexico, where for the first time that I can think of, people invaded a resort and killed people on the resort. The information is still a little bit sketchy on exactly what happened, so I don't want to give details, but unless you know them better than I do.
Well, we didn't really cover the story, and I was kind of hesitating to cover it because, from what I understand, it's not quite clear where this resort is. When I looked up the state, and you may know this better, Peter, it was not in a resort area. It was a resort, but it was not in an area where a tourist would usually travel to. Do you know where it was?
In Guanajuato, and it does have a lot of local tourism, not necessarily
Local tourism,
international
but not
tourism.
international
It has
tourism.
it
Yeah.
has national Mexican tourism goes there. It's a beautiful city, Guanajuato, but it's also considered to be one of Mexico's most dangerous states. So the real problem is not so much that particular incident. The real issue is this going to start a new trend where the cartels break into hotels and start killing people randomly? That would be a major problem.
Yeah, and you can see it's shifting. The bad guys, let's call them harmlessly, the bad guys are finding more ways to be even worse. And you
Right.
can see this no matter where crime is. You also saw it, you mentioned the situation in Sudan. Actually, the target was the airport, and there were
Yes.
civilian flights taking off and landing, and nothing bad was expected. And we ran the story actually on Saudi Airlines, what's the national carrier for Saudi Arabia. They had two flights. One from Jeddah was able to turn around. Literally, the plane was down to almost 1,000 feet, ready to touch down, and the pilot was able to get back into the air, and they returned to Jeddah. But the other flight wasn't that fortunate. They were ready to take off to Riyadh with past 150 some passengers on board when they got fired up. And really, just the heroic act of the crew prevented a major incident here. Passengers were able to evacuate back in the terminal, and security forces also from Saudi Arabia were able to get every single passenger and every single crew member into their embassy in Khartoum, and they're safe and sound, awaiting for the end of this violence. So there are incredible stories coming up everywhere in
Yes.
the world, and it's very sad. The situation we talked about it earlier in Chicago, where tourists were being attacked by a mob of youngsters that followed some internet call for takeover. And these are 16, 17-year-old kids. So I'm
You
very,
really wonder where their parents.
yeah, exactly. Where their parents and where's the education? Our education system needs needs to educate people in a way so they understand the dangers of internet, that you cannot believe everything they're saying, And following just a call on the internet is like, excuse my thoughts here, but it's like following a call from Hitler to do something, and it's not right. You have to
You're
be careful with this.
You are 100% correct. And one of the things that really scares me about the 21st century, and of course, there's the big problem also of artificial intelligence, AI, and the government is calling for a pause because they're afraid that AI may actually declare war on human beings, which would be a new form of genocide, not committed by people, but committed by machines against people. And now this is almost possible.
People are the one who built the machines.
Yes, yes. This is like a Frankenstein. This
Yes.
is exactly, the story, or I don't know if you know the famous story by Isaac Bashevis Singer. He won the Nobel Prize called the Dybbuk, where he created this monster, and the monster ends up taking over the world. And it's a piece of fiction in 1960 or 1970 when Singer wrote his works, but now it's coming true, and it's very scary because not only do we have violence, but we now have violence with high technology. And where before we could at least get some sort of control, the tourism industry is now going to have to face the issue of violence against tourists, issues of lack of training. Many cities lack police officers. And if you remember, a few years ago, we had the defund the police, which became a really big issue because many police have left. Now, I have a new book on the history of policing in the United States and Mexico. It's coming out. If I could be, I'm going to make sure you get a copy of it. But if I could be bold enough to self-promote a little bit, it'll be coming out on April 21st. The big book. It's almost 400 pages. And it talks about the interaction between police and tourism. And one of the big problems that tourism is facing is we don't have enough bodies to deal with security. In other words, people just don't want to take the job. It's dangerous. They get attacked. They are they are attacked not only by people, the bad guys, but also by politicians. And so people are quitting or they're retiring early. And meanwhile, if you look at a city like San Francisco, which just had some terrible crime, you are missing 500 police officers. Well, a camera cannot solve a crime. A camera can take a picture, but you need bodies on the ground. And if we can't get people to work, that's going to be a real problem. Hotels are lacking. Restaurants are complaining about it. Airlines are complaining about it. Airports are complaining about it. And so this is a real challenge for all of us in tourism. How do we create a safe, functioning environment with good customer service and a sense of caring? And that's something we have to really think about.
Yeah, and you're saying the lack of police officer, and I 100% agree with you. This is an urgent issue, what needs to be addressed. But it makes it even more dramatic when you think and kind of compare the reaction of police officers, like for instance in the United States, many of the high-profile cases, compared with the reactions of police officers in Europe. There seems to be a lot more civilized in Europe because they have more police officers that actually are able to do the job. Here, we're not able to do the job, so people get killed. I mean, you don't want to be an officer and confronted with a situation you think you may be harmed, so you're going to defend yourself. In Europe, there's enough police, so you won't get into the situation normally in the first part.
Yeah, no, I think you do have to be a little careful. It's not Europe. Germany has enough police officers. England does not. And there's a big lack of police in England. And the same is true of France. So it depends on which European country. Now, Germany is a leader. And Germany, I think, learned many important lessons because of World War II and really took a 180-degree turn to make sure that, it doesn't repeat its errors of the 1930s and 1940s. But other countries in Europe haven't learned as much. So yes, you do have good policing in Switzerland. You don't have good policing in France right now. You don't have great policing in England. And many of those people are disgusted and are quitting. So those problems are taking place.
And you may be very right. There is another story we did not report what happened this weekend, so let's report it here exclusively, like we're talking about it. And this is a situation what unfolded at the Hyatt Regency Hotel in the city of Düsseldorf, what is also a city what is frequented by many business travelers attending conventions and tourists. And it's a hotel I personally stayed many, many times. It's almost like my second home when I go to Germany because that's where I stay. And what happened, it's a five-star hotel, apparently two families, 12 people all together. There were guests in the hotel, got into a fight in the lobby and started literally destroying the lobby. And one of these guys had a gun. No one knows how they got the gun, but the police responded in absolute full force, never seen, I heard, in this type of force in Düsseldorf, but prevented no one really, one person got hurt, had to go to a hospital, but no one got killed, even though there was a gun involved. So there are different ways of handling a situation. And yes, it's utmost important when you need the police, they need to be there.
And of course, one of the big problems is not so much gun violence as knife violence. And you have a major problem in London with knife violence. You have a problem in San Francisco, where we just had some high profile deaths, which came from someone was killed with a kitchen knife. And, this is again a real problem because unfortunately there is in the human being, and there's the good streaks in the human being, but there also are evil inclinations. And somehow, sometimes we just go and become violent. And, if I want to kill you, I'm going to find a way to kill you, which is very tragic and very, very terrible. So, I do salute the German police. I think they're very well trained. They're well equipped and they have the support of the people and of the government. On the other hand, in a number of other countries around the world, the police don't have that support and don't have the government support. And then that's when really tragedies take place. The tourism industry for a long time tried to run away from security. It's only now that we're realizing without security, there won't be any tourism. I'm going to be in Ecuador in 2 weeks. And again, their whole northern part of their country is collapsing because of lack of tourism, lack of security, and therefore people aren't going. Now, the southern part of the country is still safe. On the other hand, look what just happened to Peru, where the riots took place. The airports were in a terrible situation, and people couldn't even get out of places like Machu Picchu. So there's lots of stuff going on. I do have to congratulate the Peruvians. I was on a something like a breaking news show for Peru, and I'll have to send it to you. It's in Spanish, where the Peruvians for the first time said, "We do have a problem, and how are we going to fix this problem?" And that is really good because too often in tourism, people run away from problems; they don't face the problems.
And in other news days, we're seeing some shifting in the aviation industry. We reported a couple of or 3 weeks ago about a new airline in the making, probably announced more in a few months in Saudi Arabia, but also Turkish Airlines. And it was started in 1933, so it turns now 90 years old. And it's just amazing if you look at the history, the recent history of this carrier becoming from a provincial airline, an airline that had major safety issue into one of the largest or the largest network in the world, flying to more cities and more countries than anyone else. So there are some positive developments in this industry. And we in the United States, of course, we still have the largest carriers, but we don't have the largest international carriers. So there is competition, and the industry is shifting. And it's just, if you wanted to read the story, just go to eturbonews.com and you see a $50 billion strong plan in when Turkish Airlines will turn 100 years old in 10 years. So it's quite ambitious. And I have to say, we can only congratulate guys like this to put this together.
And by the way, it's an excellent airline, and customer service is quite good on Turkish Airlines, and the food is quite good. And I think that's a real problem for our domestic airlines, that on international routes, our food is much less delicious, much less abundant than on Middle Eastern, Asian, or even some of the European airlines. I think you were the one who taught me that some of the U.S. carriers pay only about a third for a first class meal than the Middle Eastern or the European
For any
airlines.
and this is information I got from a very good friend who works for more than 20 some years at a major catering company at one of the largest airports in Germany, and they cater also United Airlines, Lufthansa, and many of the Star Alliance carriers. And when I hear unfortunately, what Lufthansa is paying compared to what United is paying for the meal, it's only a fraction. There's also another funny story. We all know U.S. carriers like United usually have very small number of business first class passengers that actually pay to fly first class and business class and fill the seats with upgrades. So what United has been doing for years, they order the exact number of meals the day before compared to the passenger list that booked the airline in business first. And then the very last minute, everyone who works for the catering company knows they're going to fill the rest of the seats. So they already cater the full plane, and many times it's not ordered. So they get the meals for free. My friend told me there are hundreds and hundreds of occasions United Airlines said they just didn't want to let them down. They actually gave them a full catering when they only ordered like half of the seats, and they always used it, but only paid for half of it.
It's not really very good to begin with. I'm a revenue passenger on United, and I will tell you, even 3 years ago, they came through with a liquor cart. Now I don't drink, but still it should be offered. You know, if you'd like to have a cocktail before dinner, and after dinner drink. Now then they reduced that to just two or three types of wine. Then my last flight, which was only a few weeks ago, they came to them and said, "Do you want red or white wine?" I said, "What type?" They said, "Red or white." They the meal was literally where once upon a time it was a beautifully elegant service. I keep seeing it's less and less, and I say that even in Polaris, which is their premium class, it's like a diet. You almost need to bring food on board because it's the food has becomes unfortunately so tragic. And part of the elegance of flying is that I remember just a few years ago for breakfast they served coffee and tea out of a silver pot. Now you're lucky if you get a glass, or a cup. So I think they're hurting themselves by that lack of elegance. It doesn't cost much more, and it does make the world um, special. If not, you're just a bus in the sky.
I mean, the main thing is there's competition. If you look at the Middle East carriers, and yes, granted, many times they get money from the government, and these governments have more money than we can imagine. But I had the privilege of flying Qatar Airways now on three different occasions in the
And
last,
I'm jealous.
and I can tell you, and I did fly business class. I'm just literally the first time I really couldn't believe it. I wasn't sure because no one really comes around all the time and order food. You get a menu, you order anything you want, breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever you want, or a snack. Anytime you want, you can have that food. So I figured I was trying to the first flight, okay, then maybe I have this for dinner. Maybe they allow me to have another British or English tea servings, what was great with all these sandwiches and prawn and all these things they do in England. But after this, yeah, if you're hungry, you can have another full dinner, or you can have a breakfast, or if you want two breakfasts, that's fine too. And it's delicious.
I want to tell you, Jurgen, I'm glad it was wonderful for you, but I would be lying if I didn't tell you I'm a little jealous. And I'm hoping that one of these days I get to go in Qatar Airlines on their business or their business first or whatever it's called, because your description of it really sounds scrumptious.
No, I mean, even you have flights like an hour. I flew on their flight from Doha to Riyadh, what is like a little bit more than an hour, 10 minutes. You get a full gourmet 4 or 5 course dinner. You hardly have any time to finish it, but it's excellent. It's very delicious, and you have a lot of choices. And yes, and actually they serve alcohol because once you land in Saudi Arabia, there's no more alcohol. So people did drink a lot of cocktails, I guess, on the way to
Yeah, so let me compare that. I just came back on a flight. I was business first from Morelia, Mexico to Houston. It's about a 2 hour, 20-minute flight. And for breakfast, they served a bag of popcorn and a cup of coffee.
Oh, wow. Popcorn for breakfast. That sounds really good.
Yes, it was. Well, I think that's a good place maybe to end for this evening. I want to wish you a really happy day. And let's hope that we're able to talk about only happy things at our next breaking news show.
Yeah, we'll do this. Just tell us some little bit more about happy news, what's happening, because there are always a lot of good things happening in the travel and tourism industry. It's a people industry, and we don't want to appear just to talk about disasters and so forth. There's a lot of good things happening. We invite you.
And remember, everyone, consider coming to Bali on September 29th to October 1st. Time2023.com is the website. You're going to love it. It's a great experience. And you get to try some new airlines and see how they go.
And you get to know Peter and myself and many other people in the industry.
We'll even give out free autographs to anyone who'd like it. As long as it's not on a check, you got it.
Yeah, and for those of you that enjoyed our broadcast and missed the beginning part of it, just stay tuned. Good chances that we will start again. And always you can go to breakingnewsshow.com and listen to everything we've done in the last year or so now. And thank you for joining us, and we'll be back soon. And Peter, you enjoy your beautiful afternoon and beautiful weather. And we'll see you next time.
Enjoy Hawaii for me. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Welcome to the World Tourism Network. The World Tourism Network, with headquartered in the United States and Hawaii, is under the leadership of President Dr. Peter Tarlow and myself, chairman of the organization, Juergen Steinmetz. We're having an exciting announcement for our first annual conference taking place September 29th to October 1st in Bali, Indonesia. Peter, tell us more.
Wow, this is really going to be a great event, and everyone's going to want to be there. For those of you who don't know what the World Tourism Network is, this is the opportunity for small and medium-sized businesses to come together, have their voice heard across the world, and show the world that tourism is not just the large corporations, but it's also people caring about people. And I can't think of any better place to be doing this than Bali, Indonesia, a place filled with flowers, beaches, and this will be a wonderful opportunity for people from around the world to get to know each other and to care about each other and show that tourism is back. After 2 years of COVID, we're now showing the world that tourism is well on its way to creating, once again, an industry that connects people and brings peace to the world. So I understand it's going to be a 5-in-1 conference. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, the conference, September 29th to October 1st, mark it in your calendar. It's going to be 5 conferences and subjects in one. We're going to deal with the issue of climate change and sustainable tourism. We're going to talk about resilience and investment in tourism. We're going into the field of medical tourism, safety and security. And of course, we're going to introduce destinations that are interested in the potential Indonesian outbound market and also conduct a fam trip to Indonesia for those in the travel and tourism industry that are interested in selling this. For more information, simply go to time2023.com. It's quite easy. It's time, like the time, 2023, all spelled together, .com. time2023.com. And of course, if you wanted to learn more about World Tourism Network and our organization and our various events coming up, simply go to wtn.travel, or worldtourismnetwork.org.
And Juergen, I understand there's a discount or something included if you are a World Tourism Network member. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We want members to attend. We want you to become a member. And literally, the event is free for corporate members if you're a paid up member for the World Tourism Network.
So this is really an exciting adventure, not only for the people in Bali, but for all our members in the World Tourism Network. This is a chance for us to get to know new people, make new friends, get started again. And of course, it's called the World Tourism Network because what's our main purpose? Networking. So this is a great chance for small businesses, for medium-sized businesses to network with each other across the world.
See you in Bali. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.